So, good morning, teachers. Really, it's a wonderful experience for me to join with you to speak something at the classroom pedagogy at primary level, of course, even the high school level also. My focus is going to be on classroom pedagogy, where we need to focus much on it. In fact, no, we are now moving to this new education policy 2020. That policy also, it has been discussed regarding how best we can go with this uh, the pattern wise in the classroom processes. And before that, I want to go back to this NC of 2005. From there, how we have come to reach the stage. In fact, if you look at this kind of thing, what's happening around the present, the classroom practices, that has to be discussed at length. So I am invited for that purpose. But at this juncture, where we need to discuss this with understanding the teachers like you, and that's a wonderful thing. If you if you won't, and it may not be good that if we won't discuss this kind of thing at this scenario. In fact, we are in the era of virtual classroom practices, but when we are going with these virtual classrooms, I don't know how far our teachers handle these and how our children receive. But my focus is much on the face-to-face. I out for face-to-face classroom only. But in any eventuality like this COVID-19, but this uh, classroom practices in virtual manner is also inevitable. So we'll go along with it. But as far as classroom practices are concerned, the pedagogy that we focus, that we understand is very important. The people, if a teacher do not understand, do not have the sensibility of the pedagogy where we deal with students, that makes a great disaster in the classrooms. After all, we are dealing with human brain. Human brain is it's a combination and of a lot of inbuilt emotions. The way if we don't give the respect to these emotions, and the classroom where the children may not have that much attentive and focused kind of um, learning. So across the world, one term is prevailing for the last few years. That is even um, world level organizations also talked about this word which we call it is in India, particularly in other countries also, there is a learning disaster. I mean, learning is not happening in the classrooms. It may be a very serious kind of the question which I have raised to you, that it maybe even disturb you, but really it's happening. It is not my own opinion. Across the world, many documents talk about this. Why it's been being happened? What is the reason behind this? When the child comes to our classroom, we feel that he is boy or girl is coming to the classroom. It's not that only the physical, I mean, a creature is coming into our class, and as a teacher, we are the supreme commanders of that particular four walls inside. We whatever we want, whatever we talk, and whatever we say is not questioned by everyone or anybody who is there inside the four walls. So my intention is, do we really believe that a child comes to the classroom without any sort of, emotions embedded in her mind, and any inherent knowledge with him or her, and where we need little triggerance to elevate, to understand, to reuse, even to reconstruct or construct in the form of knowledge. That makes the child to go further into the world of knowledge. Don't you feel that this classroom is a platform where we have to facilitate, we need to facilitate that kind of environment in the classroom? We should not, in my, what actually I strongly believe that the child is not coming to us with empty head. He or she possessed a great experiential orbit, where he or she lives in every day. Because this experiential orbit is created by the child. When the child is coming into the classroom, not only as human creature, along with this world is also the child brings along. So first question is, when a child is coming to a classroom, do we have a right to disturb the child's world? This is my basic question. And before coming to the class, does the child have the ability to construct the knowledge on her own? Or else the teacher who is standing and who is teaching, actually the word the teaching is, in my opinion, it's very, very, I don't know how I can interpret, but the whole problem in terms of classroom pedagogy is with the teaching. The teacher is just, it is something talking to them. As in a virtual classroom, I'm talking to you right now. Maybe at the end you may ask some questions, but I cannot see your face, and you cannot immediately respond to me, though since it is not face-to-face classroom. So had it been the real face-to-face classroom, I can just go through all the faces, I can read and I can understand. Even at the same time, I can try to assess your emotions, but it's not happening. So that's a different one. But let me come back to the child perspective. So where I was talking, the teachery, where information in the form of teaching, in the name of teaching, is being loaded into the minds of the children. This information is something we call, which we have got from the textbook and trying to transfer the child's mind. Maybe a mathematics, maybe language classroom, or maybe environment, whatever you call it. It is just a labeling. But as a whole, it is something, it is a knowledge. It is something, a culture also. Even in my way, what I am talking to you is that knowledge acquiring is the human culture. We acquire knowledge every moment. Okay. So when the information is being given without child's, nature of understanding, the brain has a nature, and how the brain receives the knowledge. It has its own nature. Without understanding that and keep on pumping information, how the child can get into that. Let's take a very simple example. So you're talking about a parrot in a classroom, or let's say an elephant. or let's say any other creature you're talking in the classroom. So child has, especially my focus is on primary level, child has some impression in her mind and what the parrot is, where she has already seen outside her environment and the elephant, and where she has got some exposure towards that any other creature. When specifically, if you are showing something to her in the name of TLM, and there is a lot of contradiction there, because this is something where you are showing an object and prepared by you, and the child has some other things, other object. I mean, it's not object like thing, and it's totally, if it is totally in a different manner, and the shape, the size, and the color, and a lot of churning goes in, a lot of disturbance goes into the minds of the child, and from where the things would stop. So learning doesn't take place because it's a contradiction. So for what is the solution for this? It doesn't mean that just raising the one problem in the classroom. It's not enough. We have to have a solution for that. For this, pedagogy should be in a position where it has to be open kind of. Let the child think our own image in the mind. In fact, we think in the form of images. So even the language also in the form of images. Really, if you think about it, it's a different kind of thing. Now I don't want to discuss it. It's not time to discuss that. So if we should not disturb that image. This is what I mean. So let me come back to the word teaching. When you just give this information in the form of teaching, that image gets disturbed. For this, we don't have any right to go to teach. In a sense, I'm repeating this, teacher is the supreme commander in the class, and sorry, without taking the acceptance and the emotional, situation of the child, we just keep on doing this, and it doesn't get any sort of, learning. The sense, learning is something, it is not keeping the information for some time in the minds of the children and reproducing or reusing in the examination. Okay. In fact, the teacher always focus on examination, where how best the child is getting marks. Maybe this is assessment, the two types of assessment that we have. What kind of, any kind of assessments, but our focus is on end. But in my opinion, teacher should not be much focused on the end product, but teacher should focus on the during, the process, how the children are getting involved into the process, in the sense, what sort of freedom is being given to the child, and every child is, whether he or she is comfortable to make herself or himself into the process, the due process that I am talking about. So there are some classroom strategies. The first point what I have discussed is how you respect child emotions, how you respect this external, the everyday encounter with environment, how the child acquires knowledge in her mind. How do you expect, respect this? This is first. And number two is how you make them to think on their own by asking the questions And finally, how collaborative you make all the children to work. This also, there are some strategies I talked about in the classroom strategies. Here, when you make the child to think in the classroom process, suddenly sometimes you may get very ridiculous answer also. But generally teachers have sense tendency that when the answer which is not appropriate immediately we get. And this is again a blunder mistake that we have been in our classrooms. No. When the child talks about gives an irrelevant answer, just go back as I was talking in the beginning. The experiential orbit where he has come from or she has come from. This is also respected. But whether child is responding to your question or not is an important one. Of course, the child is not giving appropriate answer to you. Why I'm asking this answer and question? Because when we put aside the teaching paradigm out of the scene, only one thing that people may ask you after this session also, you may think that this fellow has asked not to teach. So what is alternative? Alternative is very simple. When I ask you not to teach, if you put aside the teaching, only one thing is to make the children into the process. So very simple. You have to make them to think, isn't it? If you want to make them to think, and only one tool that we must employ in the process, that is only questions. You need to ask questions. Every question always makes any human being think. Questions are two types, the questions asked by others, and sometimes we have our self-questioning also. And generally in self-questioning, we always know, yes, I was talking, that we construct knowledge on our own with interacting and encountering our day-to-day life. Okay, so the questioning which we ask is the external question, and it has its own kind of, the skill, because, a teacher who doesn't have asking out a question, again, the thinking will be come down and maybe sometimes even snubbed out. And the thinking may be arrested. No, it's not that. That's the reason teachers should have the quality of asking a question. It's an art, in fact. Okay, so let me come back to the word I was talking in the beginning. When you ask a question, when the child is not able to give answer, what is your next step? Next step is very simple. You need to ask supplementary question. Still, the child is not giving right answer. Maybe sometimes a ridiculous answer also. And as I was starting just a moment ago, but you should not get reacted again. How best you employ yourself, instantly framing another question at another question, and again another question. So after completion of the class, total maybe the given time, your stand should be on asking only questions. So let's say in a given 40 minutes class, and 90% the transaction should be only on questioning. That's it. So now let me ask one thing. Now, when if you have employed the questioning in the classroom process with a given understanding of a topic, keeping this at the back of your mind, and keeping the learning outcomes at the back of your mind, what the children are to be achieved at the end of the class, if you keep all these things at the back of your mind, your framing of questions go along with this. You keep on ask questions, and this make them to think where thinking is not happening in the classroom, because teacher just gave information, not asking questions. Why the teachers are not able to ask questions? This is another question. It's very simple. Very simple. You have to reflect upon this very important comment. I'm doing this here. The very simple is, when a teacher is not able to ask a question, he or she doesn't have full command over the topic given. This is only one broad answer that I can give to you. And as I said, you have to reflect upon this. I repeat once again, when a teacher is not able to ask questions, employ the technique of asking questions, and that particular teacher doesn't have full command over the topic. And then he or she becomes just information transferring instrument. That's it. As this video is being transferred, the machinery which got involved into the process, it doesn't have any knowledge. It just transfers automatically. And what is totally my class and being processed through this all the electronic gadgets, does it get this knowledge? No. So why we should be only the transfer of information, and anybody can do it. That's the reason I can say that teaching profession has become so diluted. Even +2, inter failed or passed the degree discontinued people also get into this teaching profession, teaching schools, that because what they feel is the management, even those who want to teach, they feel that okay, what is teaching, and yes, we have to take a textbook and the information which is there in the textbook, that we have to transfer it. That we call it the name of the transaction. Some understanding or some topics, the depth of the topic we don't know, but we just give information, transfer information to class, and think that if the same kind of thing, the class which I asked Rashekar Garu, so what is the target group? Because target group should be there. So when I talk to you, you think about what actually the being transacted. When you don't think, and I
Sir, there the network is very low, sir. Network band is low.
hello.
There,
There is a little disturbance, I think I've come back. Right. When the question put forward to children to think, and after the next stage is very simple. And here also to assess their learning ability, how they are acquiring the given knowledge is to be put across the classroom in the form of, as I was talking, the collaborative manner. I mean, children should think, should work out in the groups. There are one or two models also there. Textbook, child interact with the textbook, that is textbook material, and the child interact with the teacher. This is another way. And third one is very important, with a peer discussion. This is very, very important, because this is just how do we interact in our day-to-day social life. This strategy, our teachers may not, I mean, they do not, in fact, bring into the classroom. We call, always, we always say that very loose is a teacher is a facilitator. But really, how far we be, and we just facilitate in the classroom situation. This is also another point where we need to reflect upon. Facilitating is not an easy job. At the same time, if you have full command over the facilitation technique, and it is in fact very easy. I mean, the knowledge system should be there in your mind. And when you're facilitating, you need to have the clear idea of classroom strategy with pedagogical implication. For example, let's take, I put two ways. First way is you present the, first of all, you have to initiate the topic. That is your brain to. Any topic that you take, environmental science, language, or even mathematics. But these three have a different. In fact, all in primary level, what we have done in textbooks, if you go to textbook, there is a trigger picture or any anecdote that to begin with. This is only your part to present in the classroom. So showing this, maybe in mathematics or environmental science, the language, as I said, trigger picture, or even some anecdote, a story kind of thing, that you just initiate with a lot of, emotional inbuilt while you're presenting. This is called a trigger. In the sense, it makes the children to think, to begin to think. So child has a lot of other things in the mind, where if you just channelize all their thoughts to your point, that really makes the children to be on the track. So to bring back all the children into the track, that trigger, I mean, what we call maybe a face sheet, a picture, a small kind of, initiative, that what you make them to think. Maybe other than the textbook also, it doesn't mean that you have to depend upon always the textbook only, the material that we have, topic that textbook. It's very interesting thing that you have seen the particular day while coming to the school. Common sense. Until and unless if you don't channelize their thoughts, and that is not the right class of, ready for you to speak something. So this is the first point. So this whole class is being, addressed by you with your presentation. This is the first stage, whole class. And then after this, I'm just giving a framework of how the classroom process should be taken up. The first is whole class by you as a teacher. And then at the same time, you just go in the whole class also, after presentation, you need to put a lot of questions as I was talking before. In the questions in the sense, every question is a question where it triggers and it touches their emotions, relating to the topic given. And that is ability that I'm talking about in the beginning. Out of questioning is that you should not, a question should not be out of that particular area to begin with. After interaction with the children, we go beyond the topic also. That's a different story. I'm talking about to begin with. That makes the child into the teaching, learning arena. That's a very important part with the teacher. This should have a lot of plan in the mind. What you can write on the and whatever the lesson plan people talk about. I don't believe in this writing the lesson plan in formal way. No, what is your plan inside? It's very important because when the topic is being initiated, you don't know how your mind thinks. Suddenly, from the subconscious, suddenly one item comes to your mind, and it makes a wonderful contribution to that particular teacher is. That's the reason, teacher is a performer, teacher is a thinker, teacher is, again, a motivator. So you just imbibe, assimilate the whole thing into that particular point, going around the topic which is being transacted. This is the first stage. Second stage is you should ask the children because what is the input is given to ask them to work out in the group. The first whole class, a lot of discussion goes on. Children think and interaction, and you have to ask every child, because if any child is not able to get into your process and focus on the child, generally we call them slow learners. Even I don't mind. I don't say it's slow learners or fast learners or this mediocre learners. No, I don't believe in it. So what I try to do is the learning takes place in the slow learner also, but the pace is a little slow. Learning takes place in the fast learners. The pace is different than slow learner, but learning is important. Learning is important. So that is very, very important. So the first stage is very important where you have to cater your service, your transactional, process to cater every child. That is your do. The first and second one is, and again, ask them to work out in the groups. Ask them to work out in the groups. Ask them to work out in the groups, and the group is given freedom. And group should take the same process as you talked, as you transacted in the first presentation stage. But really, it's a wonderful thing, This we call the collaborative or learning. This is a wonderful thing but here you may think that this fellow is talking about our children or primary school children, how they can transact on their own. Yes, this may disturb question to you, but the thing is, the process which you have begun, every day you talk in this way, every time you talk in this way, and children understand, they acquire knowledge along with that. Even they understand the process how the teacher is being transacted. People do not believe this. I'm a pedagogue. I have given a lot of trainings. I gave training to the teachers. Even I gave a lot of demos while transacting the children, because on my campus we have primary school, the high school. Okay, so in this way, and I can personally feel, because before being as a teacher trainer, and I was a teacher at the beginning, I know that how how the process, the process which I adopt is simply adopted by the children when they work in the collaborative. In fact, no, you will be wonder. You ask the questions in the presentation, the first whole class, and the same thing, if you facilitate, the children would take up asking questions among themselves. Maybe to initiate one group leader, and they take turns in asking the questions. And what they understand in between this, asking questions. Only one very important characteristic that we need to have is, patience. When you have asked a question in the classroom, whole class presentation, I think you're following the process. No, please try to understand very seriously. You ask a question in the whole class, then they don't give any response. Again, you ask another question. They don't give any response, and narrowing down to the point. So to come to this point, you need to have a lot of patience. In my opinion, the teachers, those who do not have patience, they better quit this profession. And of course, the love. When you have patience, love comes very naturally. So now, what I'm trying to say is, and this is called facilitation in other way. Patience is nothing facilitation, nothing but facilitation. So now, when you ask question, same the patience that you employ by asking questions, interacting in the whole class. And of course, the children takes place in turns, and the same thing is being operated in the groups also. This is a wonderful thing where we need to give, we call it as a technical word I'm using here, social construct. And we construct knowledge in a social ambience fact. The class is a social platform. Even the group is a small group, is also a social platform where the children interact themselves in the group, in the given group. Now, as a teacher, your role is to go and see that, observe that, how best children are interacting themselves. So this freedom is given. But in a general classroom, and as I was talking in the paradigm of teaching, and teacher stands or sits and takes the book and keep on giving information, as I am giving now to you. This happens in the general classroom. But in a collaborative, the classroom where what NCF 2005 talks about, where in fact that is a wonderful thing, because even I hope in National Education Policy 2020 also, this point may not be missed because it's more focused. So knowledge should be constructed, knowledge always constructed in a group, rather individual. Even individual also can construct the knowledge, but he or she should encounter with the society, encounter with the knowledge system, then it comes up. So this is a way that the collaborative classroom and process should be done. After this again, it's a very wonderful process, because they worked in the group. That work should be given respect. But we just in a group work, we just give group work and say that, okay, so the group work is done in my class. But the work which is being done, is respected or not? What should we do for that? Very simple again. We ask the work which is done by the group, maybe a small piece of writing, maybe a small interpretation regarding any environmental concept. We should ask the children to present. One should represent. So to present, maybe a small, plus anything should be respected in the classroom, produced by children. For example, let's take a 2 years old, a boy, a girl, draw something. If you ask them to draw something, they just scribble something. And if you ask them, what is this? They give a name for that. Oh, this is a dog. It's in fact, it's not at all a dog. But in fact, 100% it is the dog for him or her. But we must respect. Then we say, oh, what is this? This is not dog. It's only the line that you have drawn. You say it like this, the child gets now. The child cannot understand why this fellow is saying, because I have drawn the dog and he's saying that it's not dog. So there's a lot of contradiction in the mind. This again, that's disturbance. So every produce done by the children should be respected. That is the point. So here also teacher should have the patience. Teacher should have patience to allow the child to present to the whole class. I mean, whole class in the sense other groups also. So after presentation, and again, a lot of thinking. Teacher facilitate in the form of questioning again. Why this group has written this? What is this? What's the reason? What is your idea? And let other group members also get into the discussion. They can ask the questions. Okay, this is something we have done on that particular topic. And next group, and next group. And if there are 4 or 5 groups, and every group should be given. You must be thinking that if you do like this, there is a lot of time consumption. No, and I know that teachers ask these questions. Maybe after this discussion, you may ask this question. But in the beginning, we have a lot of the time should be taken. It consumes, But when the total process into the track, by practicing more and more every day, and it is the time that we consume in the beginning come very less. Just they go into the process. Sometimes the teacher is not able to execute the process in the right manner. In my experience, children would say, "Sir, now this is the stage. Now you're missing the stage." Again, if the stage is missed, something in process will be lost. See this how children. So they'll become pedagogically sensible. My opinion, the process. In the beginning, as I was talking, that we just run after the product. But what is interesting feature in the classroom situation is the process. And the process is being enjoyed by the children. When the process is being enjoyed, you'll get the product. May not be super fine product, but you get some product. But there is again another strategy pedagogically. How can we, fine tune it? I'll talk about it. So after every batch, every group is being presented. Okay, and then there should be some consensus on the given topic. Maybe you're thinking, you may think that it seems very complex for us. The topic is for the primary school. No, I'm very aware of this. The thing is at the back of our mind. I'm talking to only the primary school. Please try to understand. Okay, right. Next, another point is where I'm talking after this group. And what is the idea itself? Knowledge is being constructed on the group. So finally, how best a child, an individual, attain, acquire, construct the knowledge is very important for us. So take another topic in the same manner related to that particular unit and give an individual task. This also very important. Okay, so individual task can be given. Let the child interact with any other resources outside, textbook, any other. We call it as a lot of names that we have given, a project or something technically, wherever it fits, you can put it. I don't mind it. But finally, the individual should acquire the knowledge. This is the idea that what I'm trying to say is. Because he or she should be equipped. And some child works very well in the group. When it comes to individual, again, the problem comes, because he doesn't know how to gather the resources. Even I am also personally, I work very actively in the group. When it comes to the individual, and if the resources which I could not trap, and again I feel very disgusted. So, but this should not be there. And how inside the classroom and outside the classroom, what is the presentation is being given by the teacher is also very important. So that has to be Even for example, nowadays we have the explosion of information is there and how it should be, because we take a lot of information, but we don't know which information has to be put forward, which is supporting to our construct our own knowledge. Flood of information is there. That's also very dangerous. So now we have to train up our child in that way, what he or she needs to pick up as it and hand pick it up, where available in society, in the classroom, in the class, school library, and with the teacher is a big resource in that primary school, and you have to be very resourceful to make the children understand and how you love them, how they come to you to ask something. This is a very important facilitation that you have to give children. So this once this total individual is done, then the way in the due process, whatever this formative assessment you do, and meanwhile this summative assessment also can be done without knowledge of the child. But this is also the very important thing where we need to have the assessment. So here, the whole process, two things are very important. The first stage one, the whole class, that are how you trigger them to understand the given topic. You may take, whole class in the one, for example, if you divide this one topic into 3-4 hours, first hour is a very important hour where you have to make them to focus to this particular topic, and it should linger when they go outside the classroom also. It should make the children to think, they interact with people, they interact with the society, even animated or inanimated things. So this carries child, and this makes the child very confident. I'm not talking any particular example. For example, let's take an hygiene kind of. Let's take an environmental science, little hygiene focus. And now at the time of COVID, and hygiene is also very important. Does the school has responsibility of making the children to think how they can be hygienically sound? The knowledge of the hygiene should reflect in their habitation. That's also very important at home. And in one of the projects, I want to share my personal experience. The project which I've been doing the last 3 years, Deepana. At primary level, we have organized one these hygiene kind of a program where every one Saturday in a month, children should go in a rally manner, placards in the village. They give slogans about this hygiene, and even they go to this. Some habitations, some households. They look the nails of the elders and even they cut, because they know the importance of this. See this, that triggers from the classroom where we need to focus. And probably in the next area, because now the how best we way to tackle to contain this virus kind of diseases and epidemic of pandemic. How our children should be equip themselves is very important. Isn't it learning? It's also learning, because where we ignore, we used to ignore, but we have realized the importance of it. So this process is so important in the classroom, where teacher adopt and every moment. And I repeat once again, that in the sense, how best teacher ask questions. Again, I'm coming to the point without any contradiction. I hope everybody understand the paradigm of teaching paradigm is to be totally transformed into thinking paradigm, where who should think? children should think. And to make the children to think, and what is the trigger point? Now, who is the trigger point? Very simple, teacher. And the teacher should have that ability to make them to think. And for this, you need to have lots of home preparation. Okay, and in a sense, to begin with, any topic that you're taking related to one thing in environmental science, and you should not confine to the content which is given to you. And you just go around and try to pull up the things, and because you don't know, and what kind of question you may get from the children also. Sometimes you'll be shocked, and be ready with that. Okay, and when you put them in interaction, okay, generally we don't put them into the interaction so that we don't know what kind of question that they have their mind, because finally just the question will die after some time, because when you don't give any chance. At home, parents do not have time to give any interaction. They do not talk to the children. And in the school, if the teacher do not talk to the children, where do they express their doubt? There, the point which troubles them in the mind. Sometimes it goes. They feel that okay, it is unanswerable question, because the question goes into their subconscious after some time. When he grows up, then they feel somewhere in some situation he gets the answer. It will be certainly addressed in somewhere in the life, because we are aware that we take a lot of knowledge from this society, from the environment also. Okay, so today this actually my focus is only that. Suddenly Rajshekhar has asked me to do something to begin with. I just wanted to focus on this particular point. And the pedagogy classroom pedagogy is not a small topic. We have to go with this deeper and deeper into that. But it has again different kind of processes in different kind of subjects that we call science, especially mathematics and the language. Let me take the language as, for instance, Telugu or English. Let me give one example with this and conclude on this. So, in Telugu and English, if you go through the textbooks of our state, in every book, to begin with, there are some big pictures. So this picture, we call it in a bridging gap something, or even picture can be used in a unit which is already there. Why the pictures are so big in the page, whole place, because that picture makes the children to think. For example, a picture description is one topic. How pedagogically it has to be transacted. In fact, because when I talk about this, the three stages that we call the whole class presentation by the teacher, the group, and the individual. Let me take this as a process, a model for you to understand. After that, I invite you for the questions. Now, one picture is shown the children, and now the picture is being shown and ask the children, what is the picture about? This is the whole idea of the picture should be elicited from the children. Okay, and then they give some answer, and just go through that, everything, the whole to part, the big to small things, keep on interacting. Okay, some words they say in the board, and if it's English, they say some word, and you write on the board, and in Telugu also, you just write on the board. Okay, so when you're writing on the board, and while writing on the board also, English or Telugu, right, with a legible, and when you're writing, they must see that how, because those who do not, those generally commit the mistakes in terms of spelling, they can understand, graphically they understand. That's also very important. It's very important slot where always talk about. Whatever you write on the board is very, very important to children, because you must be very clear about it. Okay, so collect some vocabulary from them, and after that you frame some sentences. Okay, and this is a whole class that you done, and there is some, if it is a language, you write some sentences, you make them thematically, you ask them to thematically link those sentences, and finally, and you make them read and rewrite something, some processes, that whole class. That so after this, again, you have to give, as I was talking, a picture to a group. For example, let's say 5 groups are there, 5 pictures should be given. Different pictures, because process is very important, not that particular picture. And it is done by group presentation and some feedback, some write-up, the outcome is, and again, individual picture should be given. And next day that you have to see how best the children have written that particular picture description. So here, while doing this, and when the group work is done, let's take there are 5 groups, and you are also one of the groups as a teacher. Okay, you just give that to the whole this groups and presentations, and finally you have to give your teacher's version also, where they can correct themselves the process. I mean, any particular gaps are there in that particular write-up. I think you're following me. So this teacher's version makes them. You're not teaching that, you have given your version. Come on, you just go through this teacher's version and try to put some. I mean, try to understand it, and you refine the group work or even the individual work. Group work should be refined in the group. Individual work should be refined in the individual, as individual. That you put all these things that put in the one of the corners in the classroom, that will become a learning corner where the same mistake is being done by the children, and teachers should not correct the mistake. Ask the children, go and look at this corner, the same mistake you have done the last process. So come on, go and look into that. It was corrected, and try to understand. So this is a way that we make them children understand. So this is a process that is a very should be taken up. This is what called the pedagogical sensible process, and where the children think. I was talking about this thinking paradigm. Children should think. While thinking, they may commit mistakes. They commit errors. Committing error is not a sin. You must feel very happy that when your child is committing error, he or she is trying to learn something. That's a positive indication. And when the child commits a mistake, suddenly teacher gets to react. That's very, very bad. When child committing a mistake is an indication, that an indicator that where child is into the process of learning or acquiring something. This is a very important thing that the children should go along. So with this, what I am trying to do to make you understand, and to begin with, in a very simple manner, some sort of, some light I have thrown on this topic, the way you may understand. I hope, and you're being totally comfortable with my talk. Now, I request the host to allow for interaction. Mr. Rajshekar. Hello? Hello?